In the shadowed courts of power, where men scheme and fortunes turn like the wheel of fate, I, Niccolo Machiavelli, have long observed the frailties of human nature. It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both, for fear preserves loyalty through the dread of punishment, while love falters at the first whisper of self-interest. Behold, princes and schemers alike, the dark arts of manipulation, drawn from my treatise, The Prince, forged in the fires of Renaissance intrigue 5 centuries past.
I am no dreamer of utopias, but a student of reality, an Italian statesman who witnessed the rise and fall of empires through cunning rather than virtue. In The Prince, I counsel rulers not on what should be, but on what is, how to seize and hold power in a world where men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. Today, we unveil 5 dark psychology tactics from my wisdom, tools to manipulate perception, instill fear, and bend fortune to your will, applicable from thrones to boardrooms, from alliances to amorous pursuits.
Prepare yourselves, for these tactics are the art of deception, where one appears virtuous yet acts ruthless; fear over love, to control through apprehension; calculated cruelty, swift and singular, to secure dominion; strategic alliances, forging dependencies for unwavering loyalty; and mastering fortune, appearing weak when strong, to strike unforeseen. Wield them with caution, for knowledge of such shadows arms you not only to conquer, but to defend against the manipulators who prowl unseen in your midst.
Now that the stage is set in the theater of power, let us examine the first dark psychology tactic I unveil from the pages of The Prince, the art of deception, wherein one must appear virtuous while acting with ruthless precision when necessity demands it. For I have observed that men are so simple and yield so readily to the needs of the moment, that he who deceives will always find those willing to be deceived. And thus a prince should take great care to appear merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious, yet possess the flexibility to change according to the winds of fortune. Consider my exemplar, Caesar Borgia, who presented himself as a generous liberator to the people of Romagna, while methodically eliminating his rivals in the shadows, consolidating his dominion through calculated illusion in the courts of your modern age. Whether navigating the treacherous waters of business negotiations or the intimate deceptions of personal relationships, adopt this mask of benevolence to lower defenses, promising what serves your end without intent to deliver, only to reveal the steel beneath when the trap is sprung. To arm yourself against such manipulators, scrutinize not the honeyed words, but the discord between promise and performance. For the fox's tail inevitably shows in the inconsistencies of action, allowing you to pierce the veil and reclaim your autonomy in the game of power.
Turning now to the second tactic, superior in its endurance, the mastery of fear over love. For I counsel that it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both, since love is preserved by an obligation, which, because men are wicked, is broken at every opportunity for their own advantage, whereas fear is maintained by a dread of punishment that never fails.
Princes who have relied solely upon the affection of their subjects have often found their thrones crumbling at the first adversity, while those who instilled prudent fear have ruled with stability. Recall the ancient examples where rulers employed the shadow of consequence to quell rebellion before it could ignite. In your contemporary realms of authority, from the hierarchies of enterprise to the dynamics of private bonds, a timely display of potential retribution or withdrawal binds the will more firmly than fleeting fondness. Yet apply it with measure to avoid breeding the venom of hatred. Defend against this dark art by cultivating your own inner fortress of independence, recognizing the subtle currents of anxiety sown by the manipulator, and severing the chains of dependency before they tighten around your resolve. Proceeding to the third, the calculated use of cruelty, which must be employed well if it is to prove beneficial. Meaning, it should be inflicted all at once and in a single stroke, so that it may be tasted as little as possible, and thus offend less. After which, one must turn to benevolence, to reassure and secure the people. Such was the method of Agathocles, the Sicilian, who in one swift and brutal purge of the Senate and richest citizens, seized and held power without subsequent need for terror. In the arenas of your time, whether purging competitors in the race for dominance, or confronting betrayals in alliances of the heart, deliver the decisive blow early and decisively. Then extend the olive branch to foster gratitude and forgetfulness of the pain. The emotional shock of sudden severity plants a deep-rooted terror that deters future challenges. But beware the prolonged torment that festers into resentment and revolt. Guard your position against those who wield this by noting patterns of abrupt aggression, masked by subsequent normalcy, documenting the incidents with care, and preparing an escape or counter before the cycle repeats its grasp upon your fate.
Now consider the fourth tactic, that of forging strategic alliances through the creation of dependency. For a prudent prince should win over the supporters of his adversaries by conferring upon them honors and benefits that render them beholden and loyal, transforming potential threats into pillars of his own strength, as Cesare Borgia skillfully did, by appointing men from the factions of his enemies to positions of trust, thereby neutralizing their opposition and weaving them into his web of power. In the intricate networks of your era, be it in professional circles or personal entanglements, extend calculated favors and opportunities that instill a sense of obligation, binding others to your cause through the weight of reciprocity they dare not ignore. Yet maintain equilibrium in these exchanges, lest you become the one ensnared in debt. Identify the architect of such dependencies by the gradual accumulation of unspoken debts and the subtle ways they position themselves as indispensable, and counter by balancing the scales with measured returns, or by forging independent paths that diminish their hold upon your destiny. Finally, the fifth and crowning tactic, mastering fortune by the exercise of virtue. Appearing weak when one is strong, to lure the unwary into traps of their own making. For fortune is a woman who must be beaten and coerced to yield, favoring the bold and the adaptable over the timid and the rigid. A prince must emulate both the fox to recognize the snares laid before him, and the lion to terrify the wolves,
shifting his guise according to the demands of the hour. In the battles of negotiation and the subtle wars of influence that define your world, feign vulnerability or hesitation to draw forth concessions and overconfidence from your adversaries, only to unleash the prepared strike when the moment ripens. This distortion of reality bends the wheel of chance to your advantage. To defend against such masters of illusion, hone your own prudence and intuition, remaining vigilant to unexpected shifts in demeanor or fortune, and respond with steadfast resolve, rooted in self-knowledge, ensuring that no manipulator can twist the threads of your fate against you.
Thus, having traversed the shadowed paths of deception, fear, cruelty, alliances, and the conquest of fortune, drawn from the unyielding truths of my prince, I beseech you to reflect upon these dark psychology tactics, not as instruments of mere villainy, but as shields and swords in the ceaseless war of human ambition. For in a world teeming with ungrateful souls and shifting loyalties, the wise prince arms himself with knowledge of these arts to navigate the tempests of fate and emerge sovereign over his domain, wielding them with prudence to protect one's realm from the manipulators who lurk in every court and council.
Contemplate then the essence of power, which springs not from illusions of virtue, but from a profound understanding of man's base nature. Apply these lessons judiciously in your own pursuits, whether in the grand theaters of politics and commerce, or the intimate battles of the heart. For to ignore them is to court ruin at the hands of those who do not hesitate. Yet remember that the end justifies the means only when the means are tempered by foresight and the avoidance of unnecessary enmity, thus safeguarding your legacy against the erosions of time and treachery.
In conclusion, princes and aspirants alike, if these revelations have illuminated the dark corners of your mind and fortified your resolve against the frailties of fortune, then act upon this wisdom by engaging with the chronicles of power that surround you. Express your allegiance through acclaim. Subscribe to the ongoing discourse of dominion, and share in the comments below which of these tactics resonates most deeply with your own experiences. For the pursuit of mastery is unending, and in the words that echo through the ages, the ends justify the means. Fade now into the annals of intrigue until we meet again in the arena of ambition.